that. Obviously, it was very, very distressing that it happened at all. But what was encouraging was that almost everybody just piled on and said, I'm so sorry, that is not acceptable. That is not acceptable at all. And actually, to be fair to Nelson Piquet Sr., he has now issued some degree of an apology. Again, I'm going to invite you to speak in a minute. I promise. I know I could speak for England, but anyway, I will invite you to contribute in a second. I'm a gay man. When I arrived in Formula One, I was the only gay in the Formula One village. Not that we called it that then, because that was 30 years ago, before the British sitcom Little Britain was in existence. But anyway, I'm not that now. There are more of us, but there's still very few. And no drivers. There are 20 Formula One drivers. They all identify and present themselves as heterosexual, so I assume they are. There have only ever been 3 LGBTQ plus people in the whole history of the sport, 72 years. Strangely, 1 gay man, 1 bisexual man, 1 lesbian. But I think that the time is coming where if a gay man were to approach the sport, and perhaps he might be in Formula 4 now, Formula 3, Formula 2, work his way through, and I'm talking hypothetically, I'm not referring to an individual person, I think the sport is ready to embrace him now. Anyway, I'm going to kick off with you, Seb, if I may. So there have been various positive team initiatives up and down the grid and across the sport of the We Racers One nature, as I've been describing. But yeah, in truth, Formula One is still largely a white, male, heterosexual sport. Yet our fans are global and from diverse backgrounds. How important is it that the sport progresses more to embrace and reflect that developing fan base?
Well, I think it is very important. I think I don't know, I think the way I grew up, I was never confronted with any forms of racism. Obviously, I'm white, and but I think the key here is that my parents never made a difference between us and other people. Now, when we traveled around Europe, mostly when I was karting, and met different people, it didn't matter how they looked like, what they like or don't, who they love, and what they like or what they don't like. It mattered whether they are kind, whether they're good people, and that's the sort of way I grew up. And I think with that comes a sort of, I think one is natural and the other one is sort of nurtured, empathy, and just to imagine that people are. In our world today, and it's 2022, it's not 1222, people are still suffering with comments like we've seen in the recent days. It's horrible to see that this is still in existence, and therefore it's even more important that we talk about these things and we address them, and we open our arms to welcome anybody who is willing to join. I mean, the way I sort of got to know Formula One, it was all about, how quick your car is, how quick you can go inside a car. It was all about talent in the end of the day, and that's how it should be. No matter where you come from, how you look like, and who you might fall in love with in your life, it's irrelevant. What matters is, are you good to do the job, or are you not good enough to do the job? That should be the first and most important thing. So I think it is nice to see that it is opening up. I mean, I've been around now for also quite a little bit, and it is changing. And what is changing is that people are happy and happier to talk about it, and then more people are talking about it, and that's helping, I think, inside Formula One to open up. But then again, Formula One is just one of many sports, and sports can be so big and reach so many people. That's where I feel it's important that we do use, I don't want to say power, but sort of our responsibility to reach out and to just say, look, it's okay, and we are sorry for stuff that is still going on, and we feel for these communities, these people. In the end of the day, it's people, we decide actively to go down a different route. Like you said, the standards we live by, I think that's the key. How we respond to these to all of the people and communities, and how we, how much respect we're showing. I think that's ultimately the key. So things are changing, and like I said, it's opening up, and that's, I think, is a very good thing.
I think you're right. I think things are changing and they are opening up, and well said there, Seb. If I may turn to you, Martin, because we talk quite a bit about race, end racism, etc. in Formula One, and we have talked about LGBTQ plus inclusivity, and so on and so forth. But I'm going to direct this question at you, if you don't mind. The challenges for social inclusion among people with physical disabilities and indeed mental health issues or mental disabilities at sporting events in terms of taking part, but also attending and in wider society, but including this Grand Prix that we're about to all enjoy this weekend.
Yeah, I think if you've followed my journey and story over the years, you'll see that I've said many a times that I don't actually feel disabled or unable to do anything. It's not the spinal cord injury, it's not the wheelchair that makes me feel disabled, it's people's perception and the landscape. Like Sebastian said, in 2022 in the UK, the 5th richest country in the world, yet I still can't get in some restaurants and shops. Even in London, one of the biggest and best cities in the world. I think sport is probably one of the very few industries that is welcoming to disabled people. I think most of the sporting arenas, apologies, I'm a Man United fan, their disabled facilities are amazing. You feel welcome, you feel part of the team and the supporters, which is key. I think in any sport, you want to feel part of the family, whether it's Aston Martin, Eintracht Frankfurt, Manchester United, or whoever. You want to feel part of that team. And I think what we have in sport, I think at the moment is we have doors open, but we don't necessarily have the facilities to embrace it. So take, for example, I think Silverstone, I think is probably one of the very few where, as a disabled man, I could probably sit in most of the parts of the stadia. That's normally not the case. I think Silverstone offer wheelchair assistance, they offer assistance with carers and things like that, which you don't really see in sport. So I think Silverstone and F1 in the UK is probably well above anywhere else. The problem then lies what it would be, I don't know, in Abu Dhabi or Australia, or would it be that inclusive? Would it be that open? And I think that's the challenge. But it is definitely better.
One is obviously in terms of what you find when you get to the place.
Yes.
And the other one is the perception.
Correct.
So, and that's, I think, even the, with no disrespect, but even the bigger one to change, because if people start to realize we are all, people, then
exactly.
We're more happy to help you to find a way to get to the grandstand that you might like.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm trying to talk about. having conversations like this. This is the first time really that it's been done. You know what I mean? So I hope there are other brands watching. To say, I'm a disabled man, but I still want to go and watch F1. I still want to go and watch Wimbledon and basketball. But there's too many places where, because I'm in a wheelchair, it stops me from getting in. And I think certainly in the UK, but in the world in 2022, that still shouldn't be an issue. And I think, it's getting better. But I think F1 can be a real guide and a real leader in it and show it how to be done. So I'm really excited to, as a disabled man, to be able to watch F1 this weekend. So maybe ask me again on Sunday after the match, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, we're glad you're here, and we hope you have a great weekend. I think one of the things we're getting from this discussion early on here is that, things are getting better, but there's still a long way to go. So I'm going to ask you, Jamna, if I may, you are a Formula One fan.
Yep.
You're also an Aston Martin Formula One fan.
And a Sebastian fan.
and a Sebastian Vettel fan.
Yeah.
It's all good. But when it comes to, you're also a woman of colour, if I may say so. So when it comes to feeling accepted by the Formula One community, and the reason I'm asking this is that I have a feeling that it may not always be as easy as it should be, which might be building on what we've been saying already, which is things are getting better, but there's still a long way to go. Am I right? Have there been challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. I like you said, I've been a Formula One fan for pretty much my whole life because of my dad. But I only really started TikTok in February, and some of the comments, it was a welcoming community, but some of the comments, because I was new to TikTok, people thought I came from Drive to Survive, and Drive to Survive has brought in so many fans, and I think that's great. I don't think there's anything bad about it, but the amount of comments saying you must be a DTS fan, I don't understand that. I don't know what that means really. Does that mean that I don't know as much, or I shouldn't be a part, or I shouldn't be involved in knowing about Formula One? And I think the gatekeeping that exists sometimes in communities online is so high from people who have pre-DTS and post-DTS, and it shouldn't be like that. And additionally, I also get comments, "You're a woman, what do you know?" or tea emojis, like, "Are you serious? Like, really in 2022 you're telling me to go to the kitchen?" Like, it's ridiculous. And it makes me sad that it happens. I used to delete comments like that, but then I just thought, well, if someone sees that I have responded to show that I support you, if you want to create a TikTok content or any content or just be a fan, I'm here for you. And I think if someone sees that I've done that, then they know that Jamna doesn't find this acceptable, and yeah, we have a community. So it's been difficult at times, but I am strong enough to kind of let it slide. But I just thought for other women of colour as well, we saw what happened with Naomi Schiff as well, and the comments that she got that she wasn't qualified to present. I think it's ridiculous, but I think that's also why we do need people around us and our peers to say, actually, this is not right, and she is qualified and she's earned her space. And I don't have a big following like her, but I feel like something that you said at the beginning, or Sebastian said about power, if my sphere of influence is probably 3,000 people, if that just impacts one person, that's good enough for me. On the flip side, there are so many positives. The communities that I've built and the people that I talk to are, like you said at the beginning, from around the world. So it's truly global. The people I speak to from Greece, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, US, it's given me opportunities like this that I probably wouldn't have had because of the support. So it goes both ways, I think, yeah.
I think that's an interesting subject you raised, was the Naomi Schiff issue, because just a little bit like what happened with Nelson Piquet Sr.
Yeah.
and Lewis Hamilton. But yet again, the community, if we can say there's a Formula One community or a global community in Formula One, leapt to her defence, by and large. Not universally, but by and large leapt to her defence. And by the way, one of the leapers to her defence was Lewis Hamilton, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Can I go to you now, Adam? You've achieved great things in your sport, and with a growing platform like yours as a British Olympian, do you feel a responsibility to share in a discourse like this? And what can you add? And what would your reaction to be what you've heard already so far?
Yeah, I think it goes with the territory now. You excel at anything, whether that's sport or whatever it is, you're instantly a role model to some people, young kids, fans, supporters. A lot of us in elite sport in Britain, we rely on public funding, private sponsorship to be able to pursue our own dreams, which, I've had times in the past where I've thought a bit too much about that and thought, how is this fair? It's just my ambition, and how am I allowed to go and pursue it? But I always find it quite humbling when I go back to visit my old club, or I'm doing a school talk, and it's those moments when you realise the impact that you can have and the influence that we have as athletes. Because when you're so engrossed in your own mission, your goals, training hard, whatever it is, it's so easy to kind of be in that bubble and not recognise the influence you have. So, I always think it's important to, go back to your roots and integrate with your community, with followers on social media, and things like that. And yeah, more and more, I think, athletes are becoming a voice for like in various subjects, really. And for me personally now, I'm maturing into my career. I'm hoping I've got another 10 years or so left in me, but you never know. But more than what people are achieving out there you know, in a success performance point of view, you know, my idols now, you know, I think of people like Tom Daley, Marcus Rashford, what these guys are doing with their platform, you know, that's something that really inspires me. And now, you know, personally, my platform is growing a little bit. It's making me start to think, you know, how am I going to use my platform to hopefully for good effect.
Yeah, I think the two sports stars that you just mentioned there, Marcus Rashford and Tom Daley, you know, absolutely. You know, they have embraced the idea that my platform gives me an opportunity, but also a duty. And you've done this as well. I think I've seen this, I've known you for a long time, and I've seen you make that journey, and Lewis Hamilton as well. It's something that, and I'm glad to hear you saying the same thing, as sports stars, with the platform you have, particularly with social media, it's something that is an opportunity, but also a duty and hopefully a pleasure. And you can really move the needle in a positive way. I'm going to come to you now, Kate, because you're the professional. You're the you're the person who really knows about this stuff, because you're in charge of all our brand development in that sense. And therefore, you have been one of the principal drivers of Aston Martin's all in, all welcome, all celebrated initiative. Why is it so important, you know, from your point of view, as a brand leader within sports rights holder? Why is it so important? And particularly I want you to engage about why it's important for fandom, if I can use that word. That is a word, isn't it?
Yes.
Fandom today.
Good point.
And how much responsibility do teams, we've talked about individuals, but how much responsibility do teams have to promote sport as a platform for all, if I can put it that way?
Well, I don't think there's any brand or company in the world today that shouldn't be looking to both recognise and reflect society around it. We know this. There is a responsibility. If you have a platform and you're in a commercial industry, you should share voice in society, and you should really be looking outward at people. And that's what, you know, from my perspective in kind of crafting what this brand is about, what the team should be standing for, that's at the heart of it. It's about people and really reflecting the society around us. Formula One teams travel the world. We speak to many people. We have a global platform. There's no reason we shouldn't be making a positive mark everywhere we go. And, you know, all in, all welcome, all celebrated, this message we're putting out this week, for us, it's everything to do with what we stand for as a team. We are fan first and foremost. You know, I'm quite new to this sport. I'm about 2 years in, and new to sport in general. Actually, my background was in fashion and a very different world. And really, when I joined this team and when I've come into sport, I've realised the impact of really what it means to be a fan of something. I liken it a lot to being in a relationship. I think when you're in a relationship, you know, you're committed, you're all in. You go through all the highs and lows, ups and downs, and there might be times you want to walk away because, you know, things aren't going so great. And I recognise that. I'm a Man United fan. That definitely has felt true to me recently. But you know, you're committed because you love that sport, and it's maybe even part of your identity. It goes that far. And can you imagine at a human level if you love something that much and it didn't love you back? The community around it just didn't love you back because of the way you look, because of where you're from, because of how you came to the sport, because of how much knowledge you have about a Formula One car. It's sad, and that's a very, you know, it's an understatement. It's really sad. And that's why this is so important. This message this week is so important for us, and it should be going forward for, you know, any sporting platform, but in particular F1. I think, you know, I've said I'm quite new to this sport. You know, I am a woman as well, and I'm therefore a minority in this sport, and this message rings true to me much more than it did in any other role I've been in, because I'm now in quite a male-dominated environment, and I really feel my gender working here. So, you know, why is it important for teams? Because fans need to look at teams and feel inspired and feel good about the sport that they're spending money on, that they're investing their time in, that they want to share their passion and interest with their friends and family. They want to feel good about it. And it's really up to teams to respect them, respect that support, and give back and reflect the things that they're concerned about. So it's incredibly important now. It was in the past, and it will be going forward. And at this team, particularly our British Grand Prix, this is our message. Yes, but we want to create action. We want to do something and have substance in this message. You know, only this weekend we have children from Social Mobility Foundation, which is an organisation here in the UK, which helps children get through, I guess, from school into their career if they haven't had the right economic background or the social mobility to do so. There'll be about 25 children here from that group on Friday, visit this venue, see a Formula One car, meet Formula One drivers, get interview skills, you know, have sessions with this team to give them not only the exposure but the inspiration that, look, there's opportunities out there, and it doesn't matter where you come from, and it doesn't matter who you think you are or what you think other people's perception is of you. And that's action and that's substance. And it might feel like something small as an isolated event, but it is much bigger. And I hope for this team and other teams in Formula One and other sports in general that this message goes as broad as it can, and we start to do a lot more, because sport is, as you said at the top of this conversation, has a far greater power to unite people than to divide.
Fascinating. And I think one of the words you used a couple of times in that answer was commitment.
Yes.
And, you know, you're committed to Manchester United, difficult thing to be at the moment, I realise. A few people around this table appear to be, not me. Anyway, but nonetheless, our fans are committed to us, to Formula One, to Aston Martin, to Sebastian Vettel, indeed. And we have to repay that compliment with commitment as well.
Yeah.
But there's another sense of the word commitment, and if I can bring you in, Martin, on this, which is, and if you didn't know, by the way, this is the kind of commitment I'm talking about here, which is this man has just climbed Kilimanjaro on a wheelchair. Just let that sink in for a second. So you've achieved what some people might think was the impossible. Indefatigable human spirit, if I may call it that. Commitment, serious commitment to training and commitment to what must have been an extraordinary goal when you set out and during the course of achieving it. So tell us a little bit about how sport and overcoming physical challenges of that nature can influence positive change on society.
Yeah, I think certainly when I came up with the idea a couple of years ago, you know, people did look at me as though to say, "What? You want to do what?" And I'm only the second paraplegic to do it. But I think, as I talked before about, you know, to change perception, to show what disability can do when they've got the right help and support, I needed something where people did go, "He's doing what? In a wheelchair?"
Yes.
You know, 60% of able-bodied people only achieve Mount Kilimanjaro, so I'd hate to think what the stats are for somebody that's done it in a wheelchair, but considering I'm only the second person to do it, then that probably tells you. So like I say, we've only been back 2 weeks, so I am actually still recovering, but you're right, you know, that dedication, that commitment, the respect that I needed to put into it, you know. And at times, pretty much like what you said, you know, I wanted to walk away. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it because people were telling me that I couldn't do it because I was a disabled man. Well, I'm like a bull to a red rag. If somebody tells me I can't do it, I will prove you wrong. So I think a lot of it is about what's up here, but it's all about getting the right people behind you to help and support you. I've brought my friend Steve. You know, I had to build a team of people around me that would support me, because I knew we were going to go through all different levels of happiness, sadness, wanting to get out, sickness, altitude sickness. But again, like a sportsman, it's about seeing the finishing line, and that's what I did. You know, through the highs and lows, I looked at the summit, pictures on my phone of the summits, because nothing was going to stop me going there. But I think the overall message is that, you know, don't write somebody off just because they're in a wheelchair and say that they can't do something. I can do anything with the right help and support. Yes, I might need physical help. I might need an adaptation like I did with my trike to get up. It wasn't just a normal wheelchair, it was a trike. I needed the help of Sherpas to get me to the top, but we did it. So that message to the world, hopefully, is that with the right help and support, a disabled man can literally do the impossible and climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And that, since I've come back, the revolution that I wanted to start 2 years ago is well and truly started. And like I said before, now that Aston Martin are inviting me to things, you know, brands are starting to want to be involved in this project, in this revolution. You know, hopefully over the next 5-10 years, we can truly, you know, be a whole community. And that's what the Kilimanjaro project was all about.
Well, you're an absolute inspiration, my friend. You are.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think the word inspirational is important here. And if I can come to you, Seb, because we're all adults here, but we, looking to the future, the most important people are the children. And I know that you've reached out quite a lot and done quite a lot of initiatives, going to schools. Not very long ago, you went to a boys' prison in London, where people who'd started off their lives with a big mistake, obviously, and had had a really quite significant setback, but you went there and tried to inspire them, to use that word again, inspirational, to reset their compass point and begin to push forward in a positive direction in their life. How important do you think Aston Martin, sport, yourself, all of us here really have as a duty and an opportunity to help children and help the future in that sense?
Well, children are our future. I think that's it has always been like this, and it will always be like this. And I think what I sense is we are telling stories in the end. You know, I'm telling a story the way I grew up and what I turned out to be. You are telling a story. You are telling a story. I think we're all telling stories, but it's to change sort of the tone and tell the stories and say that they're cool. You know, this is a very cool story, and it inspires a lot of people. You know, what you mentioned about the path that you took in life and realizing that there's actually something else that you can give back other than, you know, stats and records. I feel the same thing. You know, I mean, I'm driving around, I love it, and it's been my life. But it is also a great feeling to sense and get the feedback from fans and people outside that, you know, what you're doing is I think we all need love. Some need more, some need less. But I think it's great to be loved and great to sense that, you know, people like what you're doing. And that's where, you know, really the responsibility kicks in terms of trying to tell the stories that will impact and change, will make a difference. So that people understand, you know, if they give you a hard time and write some shitty comments, it's not cool to do that. It's just not cool. Like, you know, their heroes, whoever they might be, don't think that's cool. And that story will hopefully help them to realize, oh, it's not cool, then it's not worth doing it. You know, I think I don't know, I'm not that old, but old enough to say that, you know, growing up, some of the things that felt like cool things to say as a child and you didn't understand why, now you do understand, and, you know, realizing, well, they're not cool at all. It's important to, you know, set a different tone so that the next generation can evolve, and then children coming up, you know, they don't do the same mistakes. Let's say I think that's in the end it's called progress. It's not rocket science, but I guess you know, it's important that you realize you have this sort of chance to tell the right stories and sort of redefine, even if it's for one person only. I feel the same thing. If you can redefine what's cool, then you've achieved a lot. You know, I think you know, listening in the story of you climbing up there, pushing your way up, and it's a cool story. And I think it's cool for you because you have so many memories now that will stay with you for the rest of your life. And, you know, having the insight of achievements, let's say, in a bigger picture through sports, you know, much more than the trophy that you get handed at the end of a race. It's much more the race itself that you remember. You know, what the journey up there. I mean, you went to the peak, and that's the sort of icing on the cake. Yes. But if you look back now, even it's only two weeks or a little bit more, or then you know, after 2 years or 20 years, it's the journey. It's the I don't want to anymore. It's cold, or it's this, or it's that. It's that what stays with you, and that's really the story that needs to be told and has, you know, so much power, because it's a human story and so much power to impact on the next generation. I don't know if I did answer your question there, though, but
I think somewhere in there was the answer
yeah.
to the question.
So I just thought I had to contribute to.
But he certainly redefined something about what being cool is, certainly,
Thank you.
Martin. You certainly
Thank
have. Listen, we've talked a lot about inspiring fans, I suppose, responding to the commitment that they offer in their enthusiasm in sport. But if I can go to you, Adam, and say, what does actually having fans mean to you? I mean, because, you know, if somebody is your fan, if they want Sebastian Vettel to win a motor race, if they are supporting you and clapping you as you're wheeling your trike up Kilimanjaro, or if they realise that 90 seconds in that canoe, you have done something unbelievably special, what does it mean to have that? Does it lift you up? Is it inspirational in return?
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. And you know, as a canoe slalom athlete, you know, it's pretty niche. Fans plural might be, you know, there's my mum. But yeah, no, it really does lift you, and it kind of makes you realise that what we're doing isn't just you know, a selfish ambition. It's you know, I think people respect passion. You know, when I hear everyone on this table speak, you know, I'm captivated, and I think it doesn't matter what your field is. Like for me, it's canoe slalom, and I'm incredibly passionate about it. And you know, whilst you know, the majority of people won't understand the rules, but you know, they see the look on my face when I talk about it, and they're like, you know, that guy, he loves something, and and if that inspires them to, you know, to figure out what their passion is, then that's amazing as well. And yeah, I mean, you know, I raced in Olympic Games last year with no fans, which was, you know,
Because of COVID, you mean?
because of COVID, yeah, and it was quite a bizarre experience. You know, Team GB and everyone back home made a real effort to make us feel like we were supported, even though there weren't people there in the grandstand. And yeah, I mean, like this weekend here, I'm sure you can't wait to race in front of full capacity crowds again. I had a race last weekend, and just the energy you get from it, it's phenomenal. And you know, sport, competitive sport, only really exists because people want to watch it. So you know, as an athlete, I'm always incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah, it's funny because it was sort of a very weird life experiment that would have never gone through to hold a Grand Prix without fans, which we had a lot of them because you know of the pandemic. It was so weird. You stood on the grid and there was, I don't know, I mean, you knew that the race is on, but it was no, there was tension, but nowhere near the level of tension when you have, you know, people around, and then, you know, this is the race, because then it becomes real. You know, when, I don't know if you felt the same thing, it felt like practice.
Yeah.
And practice is not competition. Like, I don't know if you could, maybe some, but I don't know if all the athletes in the world could be so passionate about practice. You know, the competition is what the practice is for, in a way. So it's
Gives you that extra little bit, doesn't it? When you know it means something.
Yeah, 100%. And then to have the proof with the people, and then to have that experience where there was nobody on the grandstand, that was, yeah, that was very strange.
I'm interested to hear a little bit more about that, because, you know, you put your helmet on, you've got your earplugs in, the engine's making noise, you're all on your own in the car. It's not like a footballer that can hear the crowd in quite the same way. Tell us how they managed to get through to you.
Well, I think it's the whole experience. You know, it starts with the build-up. Now, obviously, the weekend doesn't start on Sunday 5 minutes before the race, and people are all have all turned up. It's the whole build-up. You start on a Thursday, there's no driving. Then you have the practice sessions, people are there already. And then, you know, you have fans around the track. You come, you leave. So you realize, it makes you all realize, like, small things, but in like one at a time, but then all added up together. It's a big event, and that's what makes it big. You know, we're sitting in a tent right outside our factory that normally isn't there. So because, you know, we're hosting a lot of guests and people around the weekend. And yeah, like I said, it was a really, I just thought about it, and watching also the Olympic Games, it was strange. And very much I can sympathize with, it's the passion that is contagious. I can speak to a person that, I don't know, his passion is glasses. I don't know how to make a glass. And that can be fascinating. If the person is passionate about what he or she is doing, you sort of dive into this world and you forget, there's the sensation of forgetting about time and space, and you just, you're just with him or with her and you soak it all up. And that's the sort of experience I think if I go to a football game, everybody's happy, everybody's excited, and there's a passion for the game. Now, of course, your team can win or it can lose, sometimes more, sometimes less, but it's the experience, and that's the joy, the support, and you feel, you know, it's like a mini life. You feel the highs and the lows within, 90 minutes or sometimes more. But yeah, I think it's a great way to one experience as a fan, and the other side as well to experience as an athlete or as a member of a team. It's not just us drivers this weekend; it's the whole team, in fact, and the mechanics, the engineers. It's a special feeling for all of us. So that's where it is so important to have that exchange. We get so much from it, and that's why it's important to give as much as the fans give a lot, but they also get. So it's a two-way street. So.
I mean, the fans are the most important people in any sport. That's always been my view, and it's my view now. It's been fascinating to hear, particularly from Seb and Adam, on the subject of what you get from fans, the enthusiasm of fans. Now, you're a fan. You're also an influencer. I don't know how we managed to get through the whole conversation without using that word, but we have now used it. So you're a TikTok influencer, a social media influencer, but you are also a fan.
Yeah.
Tell me about, I know we've talked about your experience of being a fan, but talk a little bit about that journey around being a fan, being an influencer, and how those things intertwine, and how, as a fan, you can actually take a positive message about all the themes we've been talking about, how to improve life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like with many people, the passion for Formula One can start at such a young age, like it did with me. My first memory was when I was 7 years old of Michael Schumacher British Grand Prix. So, and then from there it's kind of grown and just ended up me thinking, let me see what TikTok's about, and started creating content, F1 news, F1 updates, silly videos. So I think there's a combination of, me wanting to share my passion, but also wanting to hear from other people about their passions as well. And I think it's important to, on my channel anyway, if I'm a fan of a certain driver, to be respectful of fans of another driver as well. And I think there's a lot of, well, you're a fan of this driver, it must mean you're like this, or your personality might be a certain way. But I think it's really important to just highlight that I am doing this because I want someone to maybe look at me, a British Indian woman, and feel that, I see someone in myself. And I feel like that in my professional work as well. If you see senior management or people here on the board, you want to see people that look like you. And that's why I kind of wanted to start that channel, to see someone, to have me, or to have people look at me and think, I can do that too, don't be afraid. And I think that's why with Aston Martin as well, highlighting different people, what you do with the I Am Creativity as well, which is where I showed my Aston Martin eyeshadow look, where people do their kind of drawings and stuff. It's that community of, I've seen someone else's content, now I want to go and find more out about them. So it's been an interesting journey. The positives far outweigh the negatives. It's been fun as well to just be a part of something where, when I first started watching Formula One, we would never have seen something like this, and the kind of inclusion of so many people, it was never like that when I was kind of growing up.
I think, the summarising phrase for that, which is often used, is if you can see it, you can be it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you mentioned Tom Daley. Obviously, he's an LGBTQ plus individual, a gay man. And when he won his Olympic medal, diving medal last year, he said, well, when I first embarked on this, I never thought I'd be here. I'd never thought I'd win an Olympic medal because I knew there was something different about me that would always prevent me. But now I am proud to be an Olympic gold medalist and a gay man, and I hope that somebody watching it will be inspired by that. So I think that is something that we can all do. And that's what We Race as One means, and that's what all of us ought to, a brilliant ally like yourself, a straight man, married with 3 kids, but speak up in favour of LGBTQ plus people. By the way, you're not on social media. Are you now tempted to join TikTok?
Yeah, give me a follow.
Exactly. Well, I need to.
I'll
find
help
out a
you.
little
It's
bit
fine.
more.
There you are. You've got
Okay.
You got a
an offer from an
tutor.
expert.
Absolutely.
Very good. Yeah, I'm a little bit behind on the whole scene, I have to admit. So it would be very
Better late than
useful,
never,
thank you,
right?
to
Yeah.
catch up.
But anyway, listen, I think we've come to the end of our allotted time. I've found it fascinating and an absolute privilege to be sitting here and asking you all the questions. So thank you all. And I hope people watching have taken something from it. And all we can say is sport exists to entertain, but also to unite and actually to be a force for good in the world. Thank you.